Okay, this is my latest video in 2024 showing the button repair options I have now. We have the new complete keypad, which includes all new gold-plated snap domes. So this replaces all the buttons with one step. You do have to remove the old snap dome buttons for this one. What I'm going to do pretty much for this video is fast forward through the disassembly and reassembly, and you can pause it or whatever if you need to see more of that. But first I'm going to explain what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this black plastic cover off to expose the two screws. The battery cover is already off. There's 4 screws under here. And then I'm just going to take it apart and then talk about the keypad again and show the different installation for those. So I'm going to set these aside. You also need a small Phillips, fairly sharp tip, small Phillips screwdriver. If you kind of get in there and you feel it catch, and that's good. If you're just sort of spinning, you don't want to strip it out. You need some isopropyl alcohol. I like the 90+%, and maybe Q-tips and a cleaning rag. Now, to get this black cover off, what I like to do is use a sharp knife. This is kind of a dull X-Acto. I've used a pocket knife and stuff before, but you can get right in this corner like that. And then I sort of turn the knife sideways and get it so it's under like that. And I have this plastic clip, although you could use almost any kind of pry tool. Plastic's better so it won't scratch. Then I can get it under there and then the knife falls out. You don't need it anymore. And you can just slide this over. And that way you don't bend this plastic part. And you can just stick it right back on when you're reassembling it. So now I'm going to take it apart. I'm not going to say anything because I'm going to fast forward. Okay, once you've got all the screws out, I like to start down here, and I have this plastic pry tool and just kind of push it up like that and then slide it along, and it'll unsnap this side. And then do a little bit over here. And the bottom down here, there's a couple plastic posts that want to come straight off. So if you pull it like this, you're going to put pressure on those. So what I do is I just sort of wiggle it back and forth down at the bottom like this. There we go. It's those 2 plastic posts go in these little holes here. Now, this has the battery springs. This is a 650. So there's 2 battery springs on the board, and then there's 2 in the housing. The 700 has battery springs both on the board, so there's none in this. So when you put it together, you have to just make sure, whichever one you have, that it goes back in the slots. Now once you have this apart, there's this part, just decorative part up here that comes right off, and then there are 3 screws. Okay, once you have the screws out, you just take this apart. Now, depending on your remote, if you have this one doesn't have a lot of oil buildup, but I've seen this is a 2mm thick plastic light pipe with a white sticker on one side. And I have seen this quite often stuck to the board because of oil. It's just the oil's sticking up. You can just pick it right off if that's the case. If there's no oil, usually it's on this side when you take it apart. Now, there's some black circles that help focus the backlight a little bit, so it doesn't show up around the edges of the buttons, I think. And this wears off really easy with isopropyl alcohol or the keypad oil. If that does rub off, it's not really a big deal. But people get confused because this is a sticker on the board, and it's very difficult. It doesn't just come off. It's a strong sticker, and it's holding all the metal snap domes down. And then there's holes where all the rubber keypad buttons go through. For the full keypad repair, you have to remove this white sticker layer, and this is going to replace it. And the new keypad, which I'm going to show you the install of this white sticker has to come off. There is a newer design, which is very rare. It was right before they discontinued the remote, where the snap domes are more like this, where this sheet just comes right off. It's not stuck on, and it's got the snap domes built into the white sticker. So to remove this, this one's pretty clean. Sometimes there's a lot of oil built up, but to remove this, it's usually easier to warm this up with a hairdryer. That gets the adhesive warmed up, which makes it come off easier. So I'm just going to grab a corner and peel this off. Yeah. But this is only if you have the complete new keypad with the gold. If you don't have that, you should leave this on because it's hard to put back on. And if it was still on there, you'd use a Q-tip and clean each one of these individual buttons. But with this off, it's much easier to clean, and you could use like a toothbrush or a rag. The only thing you can hurt with alcohol is the LCD, and you really don't hurt it. If alcohol gets under the LCD, it kind of soaks in and makes the backlight look funny. So just don't have a dripping rag or a Q-tip that's just soaked down so much that it's dripping. If it's a damp Q-tip or a damp rag, it won't get under the display. So just clean all the buttons. Now, if you've repaired your remote in the past with pencils or conductive paints or anything like that, that stuff can get in here and be really hard to see, and it can short out buttons and cause the whole thing to act crazy or not work. So if you have repaired it before, be extra careful with the cleaning, and I would do extra rubbing, especially of any buttons that look like there's any staining or buttons maybe use a lot. But we definitely want to clean all those gold contacts. The forks are all the rubber buttons, and then the little bullseye circles are the metal snap domes. And then once that's done, you just take this and put it down. And then the plastic light pipe goes back on with the black circles, if you still have them. This has the black circles and the white sticker, and the sides doesn't have the white sticker, just clear. And that goes towards the rubber keypad. Also, if your rubber keypad's really nasty, I would clean that just to get the stuff out of your remote. You can actually pull these parts out and clean them in the sink with warm water and soap. Just let them dry off good. And then that goes there. And then what I do, since this will fall out when you flip it over, is I just sort of pinch it on the sides with my hand so that it holds it while you're reassembling. And you can look up here and make sure it's not covering the screw holes in these plastic or here. And that's all you need to do with that. And then now, before I put these black screws, back in, I kind of like to test it to make sure everything's good. Right now, you could flip it over and just feel the clicky buttons real quick. But I'm going to put this back on. Actually, this remote's broken, so I can't power it up and show you. But I'm going to look down in there and make sure I got the battery prongs in the slots. And then just sort of snap that together at the bottom. I'm not even going to bother up here. And then you could put the two batteries in, and the thing should power up, and you can test all the buttons. That's a good idea before you finish the assembly. You can sort of pull this up and sneak this in there. It's a little tricky. There's some plastic tabs that go into the top housing up here, like that. Then it lines up. Okay, so let me finish that off. Click it down, I can see it's all done. And then I would put the screws back in now that I've tested it. Okay, and then the last step is just to stick this decorative cover back on. There are two little plastic bumps that go in these two little holes to help align it. They're not necessary, and occasionally while you're peeling it off, you might have actually busted it off because it's kind of fragile. If it's busted off, then it's moved and probably still stuck to the adhesive, so you won't be able to put this back down because it won't be lined up. It'll be the little busted off piece will be in the way. So if that, just look at those, and okay, it's all set from this one. So I should be able to just put it back in place. And since I didn't bend it while prying it off, it sticks right back on. And that's it. There's the new keypad.